I'm not doing NaNoWriMo this year after winning twice in a row, and here's why. Hello everyone, it is November 1st, which means everyone is talking about NaNoWriMo. I was inspired to make this video after I saw one by a creator named Marguerite Farr. I hope I'm saying her name right, but I will link her video in the description. So I'm not gonna get into any of the controversies side of NaNoWriMo, and I know that's a reason a lot of people are choosing not to participate anymore officially. Recently, there was a whole AI scandal with this kind of messy statement. Jennifer McPeak kind of covered this a little bit in her video. I will link that as well. And I'm sure there's a lot of information you can find online, but I don't. You might notice I have been sparse on this channel. I have been sparse on my live streams. I have just not been writing as frequently as I'd like to. A lot of that is because I got employed over the summer for a contract, and even though that has wrapped up, I started a different job freelancing, and I have just been busy with also a lot of personal stuff has been happening in my life, and I just haven't had the energy or the time to write as frequently as I was at the beginning of the year. You may remember a time when I was writing like 30,000 words a month, and that's just not been happening, and I'm totally okay with that. One of my biggest goals this year was to not write a lot. 2023, I really pushed myself a lot, like too much, and I didn't want the same to be said about 2024, and I've been following that plan kind of unintentionally. But November has rolled around, and it's nostalgic for me in terms of the last two Novembers. Of course, I was doing NaNoWriMo, but specifically I was writing the project that I'm writing right now. So the first Nano I did was in 2022 that I successfully won, and that was writing my contemporary fantasy novel, Seventh Virtue. If you don't know anything about it, I will link a video in the description. And last year I wrote the first solid chunk of the second book, Sunless Ground, which is the one that I'm still writing now. And I have found that Novembers have been emotionally difficult for me the last few years. They've been stressful, there's been a lot going on, and I always, in those last Novembers, chose writing sort of as a place to relax, to sort of escape. And I just haven't really been writing all that much. I have a lot going on in my daily life, but I don't really have any reprieve that feels better than just, scrolling on Instagram. I want to take this November to rebuild a writing routine. Now, I had a very solid writing routine for the last 2 years, well, really almost 2 years. And it has, like I said, shriveled since I have started employment. Even if it's part-time, I'm not working all that much. I still struggle quite a bit with the shift in the routine in comparison to when, I had nothing basically to do. At the end of the day, because my life has been a little bit busier than I've been used to, and I've been enjoying that, but also because there's a lot of personal stuff happening in my life, I really am craving the structure of a solid writing routine. I have not been going out all the time to the library like I was pretty much every single day for several months on end to write. I haven't really been spending much time at all writing. I might spend like an hour every single week writing, and that's how it's been since about the summer, with a couple blips of some productivity in between. And that is quite disconcerting to me as a neurodivergent writer. My writing is a huge special interest of mine, the special interest of all time for me. And I have been open about this before. I really struggle to engage with my work when I'm not actively drafting it. I know a lot of people, and I feel like really isolated from this. When I hear people talk about it, I feel a little jealous, definitely, where people can just brainstorm about their books. They can think about them. They can just, instead of writing, they can focus on listening to music and thinking about their characters and coming up with plot and like viewing their book as a movie and having these scenes sort of come to mind as they're just doing their everyday tasks, but brain empty most of the time. I don't do that. I have not been able to do that in years, and honestly, I don't really engage with my work outside of actually drafting, and that can get pretty sad and lonely when your work is such a big factor of your life. Really, my writing is my entire world, and because I haven't really been writing all that frequently, my world kind of feels a little small right now. It's really just me and Instagram Reels against the world, I think. Go watch my video on swapping my screen time for writing time, because you will see I have been really using screens to cope with, you know, life changes. And I don't want to do that as much. You know, we're going into the end of the year. I want to get back into things I enjoy as I sort of spend a lot more time with family. But I also don't want to write 50,000 words this month. That is the last thing I want to do. I hated it last year. It was funny because in 2022, I had pretty much a blast, except for maybe like the last 10K, because the last 10K, I was so stressed that I had to fly home across the country early from school, and I had so much work to do, and it was a lot. So it was kind of a trudge at the end, but still I enjoyed it. I last year did not enjoy my experience with NaNoWriMo. It never really kicked off. I was exhausted, and it burnt me out to the point where I had to take like a month and a half off of writing anything, and that was weird. For me, I'd written almost every single day for pretty much almost an entire year at that point, and it just was not good. And I knew that I'm so exhausted, I don't want to do this again next year. But now it's next year, and I'm like, I kind of want to do this. So the reason why, of course, it's because I'm craving that routine. I don't want to write 50,000 words. So what do I want to do instead? I want to write 25K. So that is the goal. It's doable. I've done that many, many times in this particular project. 25K in this genre, in this voice, has not been an issue. It feels like an issue to me right now because I haven't been writing. Maybe I'd be lucky to get 2,000 to 5,000 words written a month, maybe closer to the lower end of that range. So to write 25K feels quite scary, but also exciting because I know that if I put my mind to it, I really will sort of get into it, get into a groove. I just have not hit a groove in a long time, and so it feels kind of impossible. Ultimately, I don't care about how much I write. It's not about that for me. It's all about more establishing that routine. December for me has always been a time where I want to take a break from writing. So if I manage to sort of like finish up what I want to finish up for the rest of this year in November, I will be satisfied. I have been wanting to finish the rest of Sunless Ground for the last several months, and I just haven't managed to do it. I was hoping to finish in the summer. Now fall is almost done. I'd like to get closer to the end by the end of November so I can move on to more ambitious projects when the new year hits, because I have a literary fiction novel that I want to, sink my claws into, and I just haven't had the brain power to do it right now. So also a part of my goal this November is to get back into the headspace of writing. Now, everything about my life is writing, so I feel like I'm always thinking about it, but actually being in the routine is different. And sometimes I'll notice when I'm in those moments of writing a lot, writing frequently, I'll think, how could I have gone? Like, how could I have had this era where I didn't write at all? Like, that feels so bizarre to me, and I always dread the moment that happens. And I've been living that moment since maybe about May. So that brings me to what I'm working on this month. A lot of you already would know, and as I mentioned, it is Sunless Ground, the sequel to my contemporary fantasy novel, Seventh Virtue. These are all just personal projects that are basically like one big spoof of what the genre is actually supposed to be. I'm really toward the end of the book. I spent some time in August when I was on vacation mapping out the end of the book, really based off of the scenes I already had left to write. I've just been slowly making my way through that list. Of course, things just keep expanding as I'm making my way down the list, as pantsers do. Things have been coming up, so I don't expect I'll get to the end of that scene list by the end of this month, but if I could get, a little past halfway, that would be nice. There's a big event toward the end of this book, and I'm not really a big fan of writing big events anymore, especially not in genre fiction. Big events are such a pain for me to write, but there's gonna be a wedding. Actually, let me show you, because my sister illustrated the lovely couple getting married. Let me read the synopsis for Sunless Ground if you're brand new to this channel and don't know anything about it, and then I'll show you the wedding picture. Harrison is in danger. Captured at the Seventh Roost in a deal that freed Reeve, there's no way to escape, especially as he seemingly made enemies with the man he cares for most. Reeve is unhappy. While physically free from her family's terror, she spends most of her time worrying for friends she's not sure are still alive, and resentful of Darren, the man who helped get her out. But when Darren goes missing and Lonan narrowly escapes the Seventh Roost without Harrison, it seems things couldn't get worse. Without the protection of Lonan and with his own death impending, Harrison makes internal allies, one of whom is harboring secrets more sinister than anyone's expected. Meanwhile, Reeve fixates on searching for the fourth virtue whose tragic history could be the key to ending her family's tyranny and, most importantly, reuniting her with Harrison. So this has been the book about best friends sort of coming back together. Their reunion took forever. It is also the most book two of book twos I've ever written in my entire life, and I actually love it. I love book twos for that reason. I love sequels for that reason. There's a charm to them. I know that there's a lot of, book two syndrome gets some hate, but I've really been enjoying this process, so I don't want to rush the end either. But the big event that's sort of the climax of this book, almost, well, it leads to the climax, is a wedding. And so Reeve, who's one of the main characters, she's getting married. And so my sister drew this gorgeous illustration of the happy couple. I would love to just finish the wedding. I know that's going to be way more than 25,000 words from now, so will I end up writing 50,000 words this month? Who knows? I'm not going to stop myself from writing more, but I also am not going to pressure myself into hitting a goal just for the sake of hitting one. So that really is my plan for this month. I'll try to vlog it as much as possible. The NaNoWriMo vlogs are always sort of like a highlight of my year, just sort of checking in with you guys. How are you guys doing? What are you working on? Let me know what you guys are working on this month. I said that like with an English accent. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know what you guys are working on this month in the comments, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.